gents, and everyone else watching and listening. Welcome to the Capture Mike Podcast, Episode 5, brought to you by Europa Halo. A podcast bringing you more gossip than the EU sauna, where we bring you some of European Halo's finest faces onto the mic for your listening pleasure. I'm your host, Joe Sketch, joined today by the terror from Tuchonka, the Finnish finesser, Tommi the Krogan. Tommi, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, man. It's good to see you again. It's been a while since we were together on the camera, actually. It's been more than a year, easily, maybe 1.5 years. So I'm doing great, man. Just fantastic. So what about you?
Mate, I couldn't wait for this one, to be honest, to speak to you. Because as you alluded there, we have had a few different times, a few different spells on the mic together, on the webcam together as well. So it's really nice. One to see your face again, mate, and one to have a chat with you once more. So just to do a little overview of how these things work, if you're a first-time listener or you haven't listened to one of these podcasts for a while, I bring on some of European Halos, people in the scene, could be amateurs, could be professionals, anybody even like who have had experiences in European Halo. And then also sort of just chat about their experiences, chat about any stories they've got, any sort of like nuances in the scene, anything like that. And the first question I always start with, Tommi, is how'd you get into competing?
Kind of weird for me, actually, because when I played my first tournament in Halo 5, I was actually already 23 years old, I believe. So I got into competing really late as compared to most people. I suppose when I was growing up, like as a teenager, I just didn't have the passion for esports back then or anything like that. But how I got into it is basically I played so much Halo 5 that I got to a point where I was just a matchmaking kid and I was starting to beat like actual pro players a lot in like 1v1s and stuff like that. So one day I just thought to myself, like, it would be interesting to try out some tournaments. And I had this Finnish friend back then, Sami the Pharaohs, who we played together with a
I
lot.
remember Sami.
Matchmaking, a lot of matchmaking, yeah. And we both thought it would be nice to like try out a tournament here and there and see how it goes. So that was early 2019, maybe late 2018. We were just grinding, and then in 2019 we saw that Europa Halo was making a roadmap about tournaments. So that right there. So that was doubles, free for all, and then team takedown, like 4v4 competitions. There was 2 tournaments for each mode, and we picked up the double down. I think we may have missed the first tournament, maybe the first 4v4 one. We didn't even have teammates back then, so we couldn't have played anyway. But when we saw the 2v2 one was coming up, we thought, why don't we participate? And so that was basically it in a short version of how I got into competing. Just basically played the game way too much, got pretty good, and decided to try a tournament out.
So yeah, it was good that you mentioned Sami, because I remember casting you guys in that 2v2, in that double down as well. And I think it was a Plaza 2v2. I can't remember who you were against. It might have been in the winner semis, or if we did double elimination, maybe in the losers finals. It was quite late into the tournament.
Yeah, I think it was losers finals actually. So must have been against Squashy and Havoc, I believe.
Yeah. I knew it was against some of the better players in the European scene as well. And I can remember like one push you guys did, where you were stuck in Cafe in blue and you had to go round towards Nest, right? And I don't know if it was you or Sami went top flowers to top middle up to Nest 3, or might be called Cat 3 depending on your call outs. And then one of you rotated around the lift and sort of did that perfect pinch onto Havoc and Squashy.
Oh,
I mean, I'm just remembering that just as you started speaking. Like I hadn't prepped that or anything. I just thought about it as you were talking about it.
Yeah, I remember some parts of that game as well. Even some of the earlier series, like the one against Warlord and Doodle that we won to get to losers finals. Like I remember that one as well. But go on.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, sort of that to me. I think most people have probably heard of your name in the scene at that point. In matchmaking, most definitely. Yeah, would have matched you or would have played with you on the same team or anything like that. So that sort of like, cemented that, in a tournament level, you can still compete and challenge some of these high level pros. But how did you sort of learn about esports in Halo? Was it just you playing and then suddenly like some people are saying to you that's a pro you're playing against, or was it just sort of something you got interested in when you started playing Halo 5?
So yeah, actually, I was kind of introduced to esports via Halo 5 in a sense because when the game came out, like there was those tournaments in 2016, the Pro
Mm.
League stuff and bigger tournaments, the World Championships. I kind of like started watching some of those VODs back then. And like Halo 5 wasn't my first Halo. I played some on like social matchmaking Halo Reach. That was my first one. So I knew about Halo before Halo 5. And when I started playing Halo 5, I kind of uh, grew an interest to watching the competitions, at least some of them. So that's how I kind of found out about Halo esports. And the other part, you mentioned the pro players. Like it was weird because like I didn't watch European tournaments at all
Mm.
back then. I was just watching the NA ones. So I actually didn't know about European pro players. The funny thing is, like me and Sami were actually sometimes even shitting on some pro players on matchmaking. And we didn't even know that they were pro players. So that was always a funny moment to find out that, oh, that guy was a pro. Okay, I had no idea, but yeah.
Yeah. I guess in a way as well, like it's when you know they're a pro, there's that certain level of like, oh, oh
Mm.
crap, I've got to like, watch out for this guy. But if you don't know,
Yeah.
you just can play your own game, and as you said, just occasionally shit on them in matchmaking as well.
Mhm.
Um, so you doing these double down tournaments, 2v2s. It's you and Sammy. Were you interested in going into the fours? Were you trying to look for teammates at that time, or was it just like you two are a two, you're not going to sort of separate from that?
That's actually an interesting thing because Sami was never as much interested into competing as I was back
Mm.
then. So he wanted to give it a try, like try out the tournament, which was the 2v2. But after that, he was like, okay, that was really cool, but he's not like sure if he can commit the time. Like he had his studies
Mm.
going on and other stuff in his life. So right then and there, it wasn't like for him. But for me, it is after the double down. I mean, there was the FFA next, and obviously I played in that as well. Actually, made a crazy kind of comeback in the semifinals to qualify for the finals. We can touch upon that a bit later. But so I grew from 2v2 FFA, and then I played in the team takedown number 2, I guess, back then. So I went through
Yeah.
all the modes. So after the FFA, yeah, I got a team of 4 to play with, and it was actually a really good team of 4. Just none of us were like we hadn't competed in many 4v4s before, so and we hadn't practiced together, so it didn't go so well, but it was a good experience nonetheless.
Who was your four? Who was your team?
So you mean the Europa Halo one?
So you said when you had a really good 4v4
Oh
for
yeah, that
teams.
was
Yeah.
the first Europa Halo or the second maybe team takedown tournament. So it
Yeah.
was me, Legend, Precision, and Mysta. So just 4 amateur guys teaming up together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back
That's
then, I mean, obviously, Legends wasn't as good as he is now, like clearly, and I was way, way worse. And I think the same applies to everyone. The only ones with LAN experience were Mysta and Precision at that point, I believe. So it was just 4
mm,
amateur players, like obviously all individually highly skilled, teaming up together. But we just didn't mesh well enough as a team of 4 because we actually had really good opponent in the finals, so we needed that better teamwork to beat them. We had some close games, but obviously they were all pro players we're playing against, and they all had like really good communication, really good teamwork. So we were kind of bound to lose that series, even though it was kind of close.
mm, yeah. And I guess like as well that going into the fours for the first sort of time, trying to find your feet in a way is always trickier when even if you've got the gun skill, because all four of you are well, you can even see how what Legend and what Mister especially are doing
Hmm.
nowadays in Halo
Yeah.
Infinite. You're all very skilled players. That sort of teamwork and that team knowledge, I guess, just like comes over time against a pro team, so it's quite
Hmm.
tricky to sort of like adjust to
Yeah.
as well. What was some of your like first memories or some of the memories that stand out to you for that original time in 2019 when you first sort of got into Halo 5 through the 2v2s, through the 4v4s, through the FFA, all sort of like online competing during that time?
Well, obviously, like I still gotta mention Sami, like my original Finnish duo. I mean, we grinded matchmaking together for more than a year, like the HCS playlist. So it was obviously a bit sad that he didn't want to keep competing or playing the tournaments, but it was at least fun that we got that one experience together. Besides that, the free for all was quite memorable for me because I remember in the semifinals, it was pretty late in the game. I guess there was like 3 minutes left on the clock, and I was still on last place. And then another minute rolls down. It's 2 minutes on the clock, and I'm second last in the game. And then I go into this crazy spree where I get some kills. I time the camo correctly. I get the camo. Obviously, get some more kills off the camo. I'm on a killing spree or something. The camo wears out. I'm still getting some kills and staying alive. So the second camo is almost coming up already, and I'm preparing for it. I'm just timing it and waiting and just staying alive. I actually end up getting the second camo as well, and I get a killing frenzy at the very end of the game, and I qualify for the finals. Like I went from second last place with 2 minutes on the clock to basically getting third or second in that semifinals and qualifying. So that was just a crazy comeback because that was my first FFA tournament ever, and I never even played the FFA playlist anyway. So that was like, if there was one thing I was really inexperienced in, it was the FFA. But that just made it so memorable because I had that like
Hmm.
one clutch moment that saved me. Then I went on to the finals and placed like fifth. It didn't go as well. I couldn't get the camos at all. Like the lobby was so stacked at that point. So but
Hmm.
at least I got that one really epic moment of like getting a killing frenzy with basically the whole mockit in my lobby as well.
It sounds like a movie, like where like the protagonist is like, "Oh, 3 minutes left on the clock," and they're looking at the score, but he's 7 kills down, he's never gonna make it.
Mhm,
And then like the other guy said something like, "Oh, give him time." It sounds like it
mhm,
just perfectly just went together for it as well. During this whole sort of time, like in 2019, there wasn't any like lands or anything like that
mhm.
um, on the card. So, what was sort of the reason why you wanted to keep competing with these online tournaments? Was it sort of like, was it any sort of gearing up to go to a LAN, or was it just just you passionately enjoy the game?
Honestly, if there was like a Halo 5 LAN event in 2020, 2021, I think I would have gone for sure. There was one, I guess it was the Face It Ignite in 2019,
Mm,
but that was mostly Halo 3. And I didn't want to go all the way over to the United Kingdom for just to play in the Halo 5 2v2 the side
yeah.
tournament. So, but if there was a proper Halo 5 LAN 2020, 2021, I would have definitely gone. But yeah,
Yeah.
just I enjoyed playing in these online tournaments, especially the Europa Halo ones back in the day. Like
Of
so much
course.
fun. I enjoyed watching like the rebroadcast after the tournament and stuff like that. So that was just my motivation. I had so much fun, so I kept playing. Like 2020 started off with the Europa Doubles League or series, whatever it was called, and I just played in that with Warlord actually. And then
Mm,
actually 2020 was a funny year because I actually ran this tournament with Musta as well, like for the European Halo community in the summer of 2020. So where there was Europa Halo tournaments, I played in them, and then we actually even made our own tournament for the community. So
yeah.
just
Talk to me
enjoying.
about that. Talk to me. Go into detail about the tournament because I remember was it a drafts tournament if I'm correct in saying?
You could maybe classify it as
Mm,
that, but yeah, I can explain it a little bit. So it was actually me and Musta who ran this tournament, and we came up with the idea that we would open signups that you could sign up as a, if I recall it correctly, you could sign up as a solo player or a duo, but not as a three stack or a
mm,
four stack. And the point was that we would be then able to balance the teams ourselves. So we would rank all the players that signed up, and we would divide them evenly onto the teams to create as many competitive teams as possible, so that even per se the weaker skilled players could end up in a team with some pro players to even the team out. And that happened. Like there were some teams with two pro players and two like relatively unknown amateur players, not even like up and coming amateur players, just basic amateur players. So the format
mm.
was a fun idea. Obviously it was a bit of a nightmare to balance out the teams, as you can imagine. It's not easy, even with like mine and Musta's knowledge of the scene and the players. It wasn't easy by any means. And obviously,
Did
a
you?
couple teams got the bad end of the stick or the draw, whatever you call it, and a couple teams were definitely the strongest ones.
Did you like get together like in a call or on the Xbox and sort of lay out all the players and go, right, okay, this is the pools of where they are, pool 4 being like the amateur, maybe non-experienced
Hmm.
players, and
Hmm.
pool 1 being the pros, and sort of try and balance it out that
Yeah,
way? Was it quite a long process to do it?
of course it was, and I believe we had at least like 6 or 7 tiers that we ranked the players
Phew.
into. So the pros were obviously in the top tier, and then you'd have the, I guess, what you'd call semi-pros or the very best amateur players who were already looking to like, okay, they're gonna do some serious damage. And from there, down the ladder. So yeah, I think we did some calls, but mostly we made our own lists, me and Musta, and then we kind of compared them, and then we decided what we wanna switch. I think we
Mm,
settled on my list, and then we made some changes, and then we were pretty happy with it. But obviously, it took several hours to compile all the teams.
yeah. And as you alluded to, you and Mister obviously playing a lot of Halo, competing at the point, but also like a lot of matchmaking being played as well. You sort of had a good knowledge base to base these players off of as
Hmm.
well. Sort of try and gauge and try and make it as fair as possible. Obviously, like if two EU pros joined as a double, that team's going to be stacked no
Yeah.
matter who you put on the team with them. So it's not completely like you couldn't balance them, to make it as fair as possible. But
Hmm.
it sounds like an awesome thing for a lot, especially a lot of like the new players we're seeing to sort of get experience and actually like be competitive in games as
Hmm.
well. Maybe even
No,
get some tips from the pros by
yeah,
being in the same call as them.
we actually got a lot of thanks from the players after the tournament, mostly from actually the ones who weren't experienced in tournaments or weren't that good. They enjoyed their time like getting to play in a tournament where they don't just get first rounded like mostly they do. And some players really got to play with like one or two pros in their team, and the pros like they treated them well with respect and stuff like that. So everybody enjoyed their time, and we actually raised the prize pool for the tournament as well through like donations from the European Halo
Mm,
community, and we got up to nearly 500 euros of a prize pool. So it was a decent prize
yeah.
pool to play for back in 2020, where there were basically not much going on.
Well, yeah, exactly. Especially with COVID hitting as well. I remember the tournament being such a buzz on Twitter and sort of everybody like sort of going, oh yeah, I'm going to sign up as a duo. I want to sign up as a solo, and sort of like waiting for the teams to be announced as well. I
Yeah,
remember, if I remember correctly, was it Cerberus? Do you remember EU Cerberus? Zane to those people who like you may maybe know him
yeah, yeah.
personally. I think he was got to the final. He's one of these guys who absolutely loves competing in Halo. Unfortunately, just hasn't really had a good team, or it was always in those lower bracket teams.
Hmm.
But suddenly he got put with some of the good players and made to the final. So I remember speaking to him afterwards and how like happy he was and sort of
Yeah.
like how much it like made his like made his week basically by getting that far and sort of being on the winning side for a change
Yeah,
as
that's
well.
awesome. That's basically what we wanted for the tournament, what we hoped for, and everything else is, I think, overall it just went really well. I mean, it was the first one, I think, done like that, where just certain people decide all the teams, and while it's not perfectly balanced and it wasn't in the end, but it was still pretty competitive. I mean, there were a lot of game threes and then later on the bracket game five. So
Mm.
we kind of achieved what we wanted to achieve. So that was an awesome experience.
Oh
Doing
yeah.
something great for other people makes you like really happy about it, makes you feel good.
Yeah, exactly, man. And I think just those sort of tournaments are brilliant for the scene, just to sort of like one, just build that sort of like hype and talk around it as well. And even though it must have been a lot of effort from yourself and Mister to run it, it clearly
Mhm.
sort of was a success. So it sort of paid out in the
Yeah,
end.
it paid off.
So after this tournament has taken place as well, 2020, what's the rest of 2020 looking for you in terms of Halo competing?
So there were the Face It slash HGS collaboration Pro Series Cups. There was season one and season two in late 2020, and then season three and season four in early 2021. So yeah, 2020 fall, the first two seasons, yeah, I had several different teams. Mostly it was like me, Turu, and Spa, with the fourth player switching up a lot. And we got a couple of lucky top four placements because of the bracket back then, but mostly we were just about top eight or outside of top eight, mostly maybe even outside of top eight. So it was a rough start. Obviously, I had to learn how to like play proper 4v4 because back then I only played in some random aids and stuff like that, so I didn't have the proper experience. I wasn't the best teammate, I wasn't the best player back then, so results were kind of disappointing, and maybe I could have hoped for a little bit more similar-minded players on my team back then. But it was fun playing with Turu and Spa nonetheless, and whoever was our fourth, I mean, we always got along anyway. Like we never had any fights or anything like that, or too
Yeah.
much negativity. So 2020 was basically that, just not much success or anything like that. 2021 was a whole different story in the Pro Series for me, obviously.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
at the beginning, me and Speed and Spa, and I believe it was Crossman, we banded together because Speed became available. His older previous team kind of fell apart. So that was basically our team for season 3. So me, Speed, Crossman, and Spa, AG Spa. So
What
we
was
got
it? What was the team's
AG,
called? What was the team
Krogan.
called?
Okay, yeah. Krogan Vaccine, obviously. That's the team
Mm-hmm.
name.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that actually started as a Krogan virus in
It
the
did.
doubles series in 2020. That was a Warlord's idea, so you can blame him for that.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
an iconic name, Matt.
it just felt fitting because the vaccines were going about, and it wasn't no time
Oh yeah, of
anymore
course.
for
Of
Krogan
course.
virus, so we switched up the name.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
always imagined it like your team was there as a vaccine trying to sort of squash all of the other like teams and try and beat them that way. That's what I thought you guys were thinking of at that point. Of a point.
yeah,
Anyway, sorry, carry on.
yeah. Season 3, I mean, first week we got top 4 instantly. We beat actually Precisionite, Mysta, Shapidaker, and a fourth. I don't remember who it was. So the team instantly found like better success than any other team I had had. Week 2, yeah, week 2 is the really special one. I actually have a fun little story about that. But so week 2, so we had now scrimmed a week with this team, so we were actually getting better, like we were gelling better together. So
Mm.
before the tournament, I'm asking the guys like, when are we getting on, and do you wanna like do a 2v2 warm up or something? And Speed just messages saying that like he's feeling really unwell, like he's sick. He actually had thrown up. So he's saying like he will try to play, but if he gets too sick, then obviously he can't play. And we were all like, yeah, man, if you feel it's too much, then just stop playing and we'll forfeit the tournament, obviously.
Yeah,
Like
give them a
nobody
Krogan
needs,
vaccine. That's what he
yeah,
needed.
nobody needs to lose their health over a online tournament. But
Of
yeah,
course.
so we end up playing anyway. Speed feels like he can play, and I think during the early rounds, maybe he threw up a couple of times. Then, then we're already in top 4, and we're supposed to play Mockit next. So there's another thing related to this. So basically, earlier this week we had scrimmed Mockit,
Mm.
and we
Yeah.
lost to them 0-11. We didn't win a single map against them in a scrim. So that was like a wake-up call for us. We obviously went down to the very basics, like our communications, our starting strategies,
Mm.
how we move around the map in relation to each other, and just the basics. Like we always were kind of like a team that slacked off in scrims. We didn't give it our all, but that 0-11 was still a crushing defeat. Like it's
Yeah.
very down after that one. But we knew that just we can fix these issues. We can come back better. So
Yeah.
then we're about to play Mockit in the tournament. So Speed is again saying that he's gonna throw up before the first map starts, and at that point I actually messaged Squashy saying that Speed is sick and he might not be able to finish the series. So if he can't, we'll
Mm.
just forfeit the series. And Squashy was like, "Okay, man, just let me know." Then we go into the first map, and it was Plaza Strongholds. And you might maybe remember something about the scoreline, but we won it pretty easily. And at the end, Speed's stats were 24 kills and 11 deaths.
What was he doing, man?
Like nobody has any idea how he played that well while obviously he was sick. And like even before we got to say anything about the stats to him, he was like, "Sorry guys, BRB, I need to throw up again." And we just all burst out laughing in the party, just looking at his stats like, is this man actually sick or is he pretending?
He passed control to someone else just to
Yeah,
decide.
yeah. So
Yeah.
after that, next map, Rig Slayer, I believe. Speed again played really well, not as stylishly as in the first map, but he got some really clutch like sniper rifle sprees. So we win the Slayer pretty easily as well. So we're up 2-0. I think Speed again threw up in between the second and third map. So he comes
He's
back and
running
then
on empty at this point.
yeah, I mean that must have like a toll on you if you
Mm,
like have to throw up like 5 times during an hour or something like that.
mm.
Yeah. Third map, Eden Oddball. We won that one as well, not as with a big lead as the other ones, but we won it anyway. And Speed had a pretty normal performance, nothing crazy. I mean, pretty much all of us played up to the power Speed at that point. So we just
Mm.
closed out the series, won the Oddball, and that's the end of the funny story. I mean, the man is actually like throwing up in between matches and still like shitting on his opponents.
Yeah.
That's just Speed things, like nobody else can do it.
Surely, like for you guys, like you three with Speed, I'm thinking like if he's being like sick, if he's throwing up in between these matches and still shitting on Mocket at the time, like we can win this series, we can do this.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
yeah.
Speed
What was it?
actually, he did something similar later on. I remember him winning a FFA tournament while he had that 24-hour plus stream going on. Like he had been awake for about 30 hours and he won the FFA tournament. Like that was crazy. So
Potentially,
he's just an animal, man.
if ever Speed is sick at an event, I will be worried for the other team,
Yeah,
basically.
definitely.
Yeah. What was the turnaround from the, so I know you said you lost to Mocket 11-0 in scrims earlier that I think you said earlier
Mhm.
that week as well.
Yes,
Was it
yes.
like a 3-4 day turnaround then from that to 3-0 in the middle of
Yeah,
the tournament?
basically. Was
How?
just a crazy turnaround.
Yeah.
I mean, we just had some fundamental issues and we managed to fix those after the screen because we watched the VODs and we went through the issues. So and
Yeah.
obviously we were a tournament team, like we always played better in a tournament than in screens, like much better.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you for a bit of insight in terms of how you guys like reacted to it and what you guys did, but you said like you're watching the VOD. Was it like did you spend a lot of time going over each individual game to try and like perfect it? Was it just like an overall sort of encompass? Let's watch it individually and talk back
Yeah,
afterwards.
overall just find out like what we're doing wrong, the big things, and let's just talk about them and fix them basically.
How'd you get on in the final after you beat Mocket? Do you remember who you played?
It was losers finals, so against
Oh,
the usual
yeah,
suspects, Kimbo,
yeah,
Kimbo Mouse, Snipe Drone, SLG, those guys. So at that point, like we had never beaten them before, and we didn't beat them here. But obviously, Speed was feeling even like weaker than before, so we had no chance. We lost to them
mm,
pretty quickly that time.
of course.
Yeah, after the tournament, actually, because we beat Mockit, we got an interesting offer from like two of their players. Precision Knight and Patchford wanted to join up with me and Speed. That was like their proposal, and so me and Speed talked about it. And we were kind of already looking to replace AG Spa. That was known, like
Mm,
even after we beat Mogit, that we wanted to replace him for someone which is better, overall.
yeah,
Nothing against Spa, like we enjoyed a lot playing with him, and he obviously was a good player to beat Mogit. You can't have one weak man and still be able to
yeah,
beat
of course.
a good team. So we were looking to replace Spa. So but the issue was like Precision Knight and Patchford kind of wanted to join up as a duo, so we came to the difficult decision of, comparing Crossman to Precision Knight. And on the surface level, individually and as an overall Halo 5 player, Precision Knight is better than Crossman. So we did maths basically. We didn't like think it through. We just did maths like he's a better player overall. He can like outshoot more people and stuff like that. So we also dropped Crossman to get Patchford and Precision Knight, and we had some kind of good
Mm,
results and then some maybe even declining results. We didn't manage to beat Kimbo, Mose, and those guys once with this lineup, not even once. We might have been maybe semi close one time, but nothing like that we actually would have had it in us to beat them. It didn't look like that. So that
yeah,
was basically the end of season 3. We played with Password and Precision, and we didn't like improve. We kind of stayed stayed where we were.
Mm.
And we
So
also, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say there was going to be a mix-up for season 4, but if you got something else to add just beforehand.
Yeah, I was just saying that maybe there was some like teething issues inside the team, like
Mm,
our play styles didn't fit together, and there was maybe some too much negativity. I
mm,
actually did an interview with Sergi back then, and I mentioned some of these issues that we were having on that interview. So that
yeah,
team dynamic just didn't work. So at the end of season 3, when the finals was over, we actually ended up dropping Precision Knight. So we were still with Patchford, and we picked up Crossman. Now that's when me and Speed basically realized that Crossman was the better fit for the team. Even if he wasn't individually as good as Precision Knight, he was a better team player, and we feel like he elevated the team with his like his play style and his communication and his good vibes. It was a case of,
mm,
on one side you have the better individual player, and then the other side you have a better player for the team specifically. And this time, like, we realized that it's actually better to have a player that fits on the team rather than the one with more individual skill.
yeah. The
So,
vibes, the communication, the
mhm,
teamwork, all sort of like blend together. And it's not that Crossman isn't a bad player as well. That's
of
the
course
thing.
not.
So all of those sort of elevate him to that high level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually one of the only times where I feel like I've made a bad team like change decision. Probably the only one that I regret. But obviously we made up for it because we picked him right up in season 4. But at the time that was definitely a mistake. But
Yeah.
you do these things, you learn, and then you kind of know better the next time.
So what happened in season 4 then?
Yeah, so obviously we started off with Patchford, so it's still me, Speed, Crossman is back, and then we have Patchford. But Patchford's interest was kind of waning, and he kind of wanted to play with his friends for the remaining like Halo 5 online tournaments. So obviously with Mokit again, we were like, "You're free to do what you want, man." So Patchford leaves before the first tournament, so we have to pick up a new player. And funnily enough, when Patchford wanted to play with his friends again, Looney was kind of interested to join our squad. And we actually asked him to join and stuff like that. But it turns out he couldn't play the first tournament, season 4, week 1. He couldn't play. So
Mm,
we had to get a substitute player. So we end up getting Outcast to replace him. And we actually do really well. Like the very first, I'm not sure if it was the first game for us playing together ever, but like we play Carter basically really quickly in the
mm.
tournament. And we actually tie a CTF Fathom game against Cartel with Outcast, so we knew instantly like he fits on the team pretty well.
So those you don't know, Cartel became what Ascend is now technically in the scene. Like I think they went on a 107 like game winning run, like where
Yeah,
they
maybe
won
even more.
series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it probably did. It probably continued. But yeah, they're definitely a top team. So was that your first? You didn't like scrim or anything beforehand with Outcast. That was like the first game you
Yeah.
played.
That might have been the very first time we played with him. Obviously, me, Speed, Crossman, we had played a ton together, but not with
Mm,
Outcast. So that was just a bit of an eye opener. Like we instantly noticed that he actually fits on the team really well, like his play style. So yeah, that was week 1. I mean, we got top 3, I believe. First week, we lost
mm.
to Kimbo, Mose, SLG, Snipe Drone. That was actually the first time we kind of pushed them to close in a way that we took a map and maybe we had a second, like an OBJ game pretty close. So there was definite improvement over like the end of season 3. So after week 1, obviously we were still in talk with Looney, but then Looney kind of noticed that we were also considering Outcast because of the good performance. So he was just like, "Okay, guys, you wanted to play with me, and now you don't. Like, just I'm just gonna go play with Mokit again and stuff like that."
Mm.
So he basically kind of forced our hand at that point, but it was okay because we still had Outcast ready to play. So
Were,
yeah, then
did you want to play? Was it like when you weighing up the
we
options?
were
Were
kind of
you
50-50 still at that
okay?
point because Looney obviously was a great player as well. So it was still 50-50 in consideration. And then when Looney find out about us considering Outcast, then he just said like, "Guys, okay, that's fine. I'm gonna go play with these guys. You play with Outcast," stuff like that.
Mm.
So yeah, we play with Outcast. We go into season 4, week 2, So this is our best placement and performance in the Pro Series Cups. So we actually started kind of slow. We went 2-0 down against Mokit, but all this time we knew that we could take the second, like the remaining 3 maps quite easily.
Mm.
I guess we had some of our weaker game types first, and we were kind of off to a slow start. So we knew we would win and just took the next 3 maps, reverse swept them. But that kind of did good for us because at that point, like that series forced us to wake up and like start actually playing real like together and much more efficiently. So next up
Mm.
we play Kimbo's team again. Kimbo, Moose, Nitro, SLG. We actually beat them 3-1 in the bracket. So that was the first time we beat them. So that was just in the bracket. So they're still in the tournament. They dropped down to lower bracket, and we actually went to winners finals for the first time to play Cartel. I lost to them, not even close. Like Cartel was just way ahead.
Yeah.
Regardless, they were just the best team in Halo 5 at that point. But yeah, that definitely like beating them, like Kimbo's team, it elevated our confidence, and we made it onto the loser finals, obviously, and we played them again. And that match was actually streamed, so we won stream for that one. It went all the way to game 5, and we won the game 5 Slayer with like 8 kills and beat them basically twice in the same tournament. I
Yeah.
remember it being a really weird series. Like after the Coliseum CTF game, like Jersey fell off his chair and he was on the floor shouting, "I can't do this anymore!" And there was some like flag fumbling, just weird stuff going on. And game 1 was really close. Game 2, we staked them in the Slayer. You know, obviously, if I didn't mention it, we lost the CTF game 1. So we win
Mm.
the Slayer with a stake. Then it was Empire Strongholds. Yeah, we win that one as well with like 11 points. It was really close. We had some clutches where basically 2 times 2 members of our team won an unofficial 2 versus 4 situation. So 2 of us went down. I think the first time it was Speed and Outcast alive, so me and Crossman died. And they were capping the pit on Empire, which is, you know, a bloodbath every single time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Speed and Outcast actually go in basically 2 versus 4 and they get the reset. But one of them is still alive and Speed and Outcast die. So then he goes to cap the base and his teammates respawn. Then me and Crossman respawn and we do the same thing. We basically unofficially win a 2v4 and we get the reset. And then afterwards we win the game. There's some clutch moments in that one. So now
Yeah.
we're up 2-0, 2-1, sorry. Then we play Fisher Oddball, and we're actually at one point we're down by over 100 points, like they were 120 to 30 up in the
Mm.
Oddball. We actually bring it really close. We bring it to 120 points as well, but they end up clutching it and winning the Oddball, so it's 2-2. And like I said, then we win the game 5 Slayer. So that was probably the most fun I've had in an online tournament, you know, playing that series and winning it, and afterwards, you know, finally placing for that money as well.
Mm.
Obviously, you
Yeah.
get some money even if you just qualify for the finals, but on the week series, when you played on a normal week, only top 2 teams got money. So that was
Yeah.
the first time we got money from those weekly cups. That was
That
really
was
fun.
yeah. That was such an like an upset. I mean, I know you guys were a brilliant team. I remember watching this series as well. When you
Gas
played.
team. Hmm.
Yeah.
You
Well.
got them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
yeah.
The EGIF. Because I remember me and
E-gift,
Shirzy.
yeah.
Yeah, the e-gift teams were was like top 2. It was
Mm.
in consideration. Like Cartel were like up here.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's on my I don't know if it's
yeah.
showing on my webcam. EGIF were here, and then you guys were there, and every team was
Mhm,
below. And
mhm.
then that was like a massive step up. But beating them
Yeah,
twice as well was just yeah. Yeah. It was one of my fondest moments in Halo 5 just to see that sort of like you guys playing as a team at your top level as well with like the 3 other teammates around you all sort of on that top amateur top going into semi-pro level as well. I'd say
yeah,
all of you guys were just there finally sort of connect the dots to make that I'm getting quite hyped right now about to
yeah,
connect and make that sort of thing work, especially
yeah,
against 4 players who has been established in European Halo.
Yeah,
Even at
the
that
most
point,
dominant team
yeah,
in like the first 3 years of Halo 5,
yeah,
the most dominant European team. But
exactly.
obviously, yeah, I had to mention that Speed was also a pro in 2016 already, so he was
Mhm.
and Outcast was at least a semi-pro. Some would consider at one point a pro for a while. So we had like really good teammates, me and Crossman. Like me and
Yeah,
Crossman were the only ones who were like the true amateurs on the squad. But
yeah.
yeah, it was just a case of like 4 individual people just gelling really well together, having good vibes, and even like our playstyles meshed together. So we were able to pull off some upsets that people didn't see coming. So that was a fun time, finishing up at season
Yeah.
4. We ended up in top 3 again multiple times, stuff like that. Nothing crazy, but week 2 was definitely our highlight, getting the top 2.
I need to see this VOD. I need to rewatch
It's
watch
still
that
up, I
game.
know. I know
Yeah.
it's still up on Europe Halo channel.
Right, we're going after this. I'm gonna go have a look.
Okay.
Oh man, awesome. That yeah, I remember that. Like, even when you're talking about it. And first of all, Tommy, you set like a great scene. Like, if I close my eyes, I could imagine it. Like as
Mm.
you're telling me right there. But yeah, that's just such an awesome like insight to see how you guys were thinking. And you probably would have beaten Cartel if Speed was ill as well. If he started throwing up in the winners in the grand finals. I'm
Who knows? I
joking.
mean,
Yeah. We'll never know. We'll never know. So you said you finished season 4 with a top 3.
yeah,
Um,
basically something like that.
yeah. What happened after that in 2021?
2021, there was still some Europe Halo tournaments in the spring. There was the 2v2 and then there was the 4v4. Both were called maybe Spring Series, stuff like that. 2v2 Spring Series and then 4v4 Spring Series. So actually got an interesting proposition from Keolan Doyle, the Mr.
Hmm.
Europa Halo himself. So I kind of let it slip to him that I wasn't sure if I was going to play the 2v2 because I kind of felt keeping a break a bit from competing. I was going to play the 4v4 with the same team, but just thought to keep the 2v2 time as a break. So Keolan hears this and he suggests to me like if you wanna try out casting, like we'll get you on. And so basically I thought about it for a while and I thought like why not? At this
Hmm.
point I've competed, I've run a community tournament. So the next thing to experience in Halo is to try casting. So basically I casted it 2v2 with you, Joe. We were a team.
Yes, we did.
We started as the B squad.
Yeah, yeah, we
There
did.
was the A squad, which was Sergi and Jimbo. So Jimbo also tried out casting.
Mm,
So week 1 we were on the B stream. Actually, week 2 we got on the main stream to cast some
yeah.
series, and it was a bunch of fun. I kind of enjoyed casting. I kind of didn't. It was more so me to just try it out, give it a shot, and unfortunately, it just wasn't my thing. I mean, I still enjoyed casting, and you were an awesome
I
partner to do
absolutely
it
loved it.
with. Yeah, it was fun, really fun. But I had other stuff going on in my life. I was
Yeah.
kind of busy back then, so I decided to step away for the remaining 2v2 tournaments. So, but I got to experience casting anyway, so I can't complain.
So yeah, I built and asked a question like that because I wanted to see like how you sort of were like got approached and then went into commentating casting with me. Honestly, I am just upset that you still don't do it with me. That's the only thing I can say. It was an absolute pleasure when we were doing it, and
Yeah,
I don't think we'd had that many interactions before the casting,
yeah, not
right?
really,
As well.
not really.
Yeah, so it was just like basically fresh, coming into it together and immediately clicking. Yeah, went from B to A. We were in the trenches in B and went up to A for a bit as well, which was an absolute pleasure. And I think that it definitely showed from my point of view, casting with you, your analytical mind in the game and sort of the knowledge you brought to the table
Yeah.
was fantastic, which really sort of stemmed from your high level competing up to that point as well. So yeah, at this point, Tommy, you've been a 2v2s, been to a 4v4 player, set
FFA.
winning money, FFA as well, and then
Mhm.
casting. You've almost completed the 5 different aspects of esports to that point as well.
Yeah. And I
Um,
guess one more aspect is that, like I said, we ran a tournament for the community,
oh
which I
yeah,
talked about
yeah, of
earlier. So
course.
basically,
Corner host.
competing, competing, casting, running a tournament, a lot of
Yeah.
different things. So I definitely got to experience basically not all of it, but most of it. So I
In
used my short time in Halo pretty well.
2 years at that
Yeah,
point
yeah.
as well. Yeah, I can't say I can't like appreciate enough how how good you were on the casting booth for me. I really enjoyed all that time.
Well, thank you,
As
man. Thank you.
as short lived as it was in the TV2s, and I remember speaking to you about like your heart was still either in competing or also like some other external things as well. But to have that sort of under your belt as well, and you're always welcome back in Europa Halo.
Yeah, that's what Keolan keeps messaging me about every other week.
I'll keep messaging you. All of us will keep messaging you.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah, maybe one day when my passion for Halo reignites, maybe one
Yeah,
day.
yeah. No pressure. So you said you already had your team for 4v4s.
Yeah,
In
we started with the same squad basically, but 10 people had other stuff to do. I mean, Outcast, I think he fell off first, and then at some point Speed fell off. So it was towards the end, it was me, Crossman, then Turu and Stika, and at one point it was me, Turu, Stika, and Sunart, I believe, in the finals. So that was a fun amateur squad as well. Like it's just four basic amateur players playing together, and we made it all the way to the losers finals, and we lost a game 5 against Mysta, Looney, Outcast, and Marine. So we were 2 kills away from winning that, and that would have been
yeah.
an upset in my mind because just basically for amateur players, we didn't have much practice together. We just kind of clicked. But yeah, just fun playing those basically final Halo 5 Europe Halo tournaments. I mean, the Krogan vaccine squad kind of fell off, but I still had fun playing with other people, especially Turu. Like
Yeah.
him and I had played a lot together, and we would continue to play together in Infinite for a while. So that was a fun little squad there.
Before we go on to Infinite, um, is there any closing things, anything else which we haven't touched upon in the Halo 5 yet, which I might have glossed over or we haven't just had a chance to speak about?
I suppose maybe the Finnish scene, like even before I started
I was going to
competing,
build
like
into
yeah,
that.
sure,
No, that's
sure,
fine.
man. Good.
Yeah, mate.
I
Yeah,
mean, Halo 5, like that was a game I really enjoyed. I played it socially for the first 3 years almost. I just played Warzone, I played BTB, I played some like ranked Breakout and ranked Slayer, but not too much. So we
yeah,
just, me and some other people, we just built this awesome like Finnish community. We had up to like 10 people that we regularly played together with, like all Finnish players, and just sunk thousands of hours together into the game. So the Finnish scene was the social scene was really like doing well in Halo 5.
mm,
Obviously, there was the competitive side, which I wasn't a part of back then. It was those Menas Zauk guys, Systematic, Robba, Mersu, those guys.
mm.
Uh, they did some pretty good results as well, but I suppose they never made it to the Pro League or those sort of tournaments, but they tried their best and were kind of close a couple of times.
Was it always like well these guys would like sort of build you up and give you sort of like tips and that as you guys were going into
Actually, no.
competing?
Actually, no.
Was it
We
no?
didn't interact with each other at all. Like uh, it was kind of, I don't know why, but we just had a separate thing. Like my side, we had the social like
Mm,
community, and they had the competitive community, and we didn't like clash at all. Like we didn't interact with each other much at all. And obviously, those guys they kind of stopped competing at the end of 2016, so they disappeared for 2017, and that was like when the social guys were playing the most, and we even ran our own little like FFA tournament just for Finnish players back then as well. But
yeah.
yeah, so I'm sure they're all nice guys. I've met them, a lot of them in real life in via Halo Infinite now. So obviously, if we interacted with each other more, they would have like for sure given us tips and took us into their raids and whatever. But it just didn't happen, and it's fine.
Yeah. Did you like when you build this FFA sort of like tournament and building with this social scene with the Finns, was there even at that point and I know we spoke about it a bit before, like did any of you guys want to make that breach into sort of like into
Yeah,
competing? Was it just, we can play some customs there?
yeah. So that actually happened when they changed the HCS, like the settings. They changed They removed the automatic weapons. They took away a little bit
Yeah.
later. They took away ground pound and Spartan charge. So when they switched to pistols, like there was a group of us, like Finns, who used to be just the social kids. Like we got interested into playing like 4v4 the HS playlist. Not necessarily like competing as a team of four or anything like that. Just like grinding together and trying to improve. So it was basically myself, Sami the Pharaohs, Mutuk One, Yohu, Finn, and Andi Tonsa, and also uh, we Taku we. Like maybe there was maybe six of us Finns who wanted to like grind the HCS playlist
Mm.
together. That lasted for like 3 to 4 months, but eventually most of them stopped grinding. It was just me and Sami, and that's where we kind of transitioned to where we started the chat today. So me and Sami still grinding and 10
Yeah.
participating into tournaments. I don't know if some of those guys, like obviously Andy Tonsa played in the tournaments as well later on, but most of those guys like Johu, Mutuk, those they didn't play in those Europa Halo tournaments.
Mm.
But Andy Tonsa kept playing. He played also in the EU Pro Series Cups and most of
I
the
remember.
Europa Halo ones. Yeah.
Remember Undy Tonza. I think
Mhm.
he was the one which stood out to me in terms of like matchmaking and sort of playing against and remembering that
Yeah, and
name.
also a big brain and like a movement type of player. Like his
Mm.
movement was sick, and he was finding out like cool little tricks and jumps that most people didn't know about, and he actually utilized them pretty well.
Oh, awesome! Did you sort of keep up with all these finished scene when you
Yeah,
went into
yeah,
competing
definitely,
as well? Yeah.
definitely, man. Like we had a really close like kind of friendship circle. Through Halo 5, I met. Let me think. I met one, two, three, four, five of my Finnish friends in real life. Like
Oh, that's awesome.
just friends that came through Halo 5. And actually, two of them, we kind of keep a LAN together like 2 to 3 times every year. Like we've done that for like 5 years now. So this is people I've met through Halo 5 and they're actually really good friends in my life still. So even if no one of us like anymore plays Halo, we still like get together and just play some other games and have
Mm.
drinks and have fun. So
That's honestly, sometimes I think that's the best thing about Halo. Some of my really good mates as well are from a Halo scene. I've gone on holiday with two of them beforehand and that sort of thing. So yeah, no, it's really cool to see that you still got those little lands and everything going on. It's always like H5, or is it just get together, get some games going?
get together and just play games. Like we really enjoy
Yeah,
the Souls games, and just drinking and playing the Souls games, like really on more even difficult, like weapons and weaker armor. So it's even more difficult than just drinking as much as we can. So it's just basically doing a drinking game where the final man standing wins it all. So the other two have to throw up basically to
do you win it?
eliminate.
Have you won?
I've won a couple. I've lost many. You win some, you lose some, but you
Yeah,
have fun
yeah.
every single time.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's awesome. Talking about other games as well. You've got quite a distinct name, gamer tag,
Mm.
right? Tommy
Yeah.
the Krogan. I mean, like, I can put two and two together, but talk to me how that became sort of like your image, your persona, or your gamer tag, and in gaming.
Yeah. So shortly after Halo 5, I guess 6, 7 months, I had my original gamer tag, just Tommy 2580, and I wanted to switch it up because it was kind of silly. Back then, I was just a huge Mass Effect fan. Like that's just the first thing that came to my mind. I wanna like combine obviously my name Tommy to some sort of identity from the Mass Effect series. So I was always a
Yeah,
fan of the Krogan species in Mass Effect because of like how they are. So that was
yeah.
just obvious like collaboration for me. Just combine my name with a Krogan, and it's just it became it became kind of like a meme at one point, and it's all good.
Yeah, yeah. I just wanted to add that in there just then because, like, yeah, I'm a massive Mass Effect fan as well. So it just like resonated with me, the name. And it's
Mm.
iconic now, Tommy. I think Tommy
Yeah,
McCrogan. You never say Tommy. You just say Tommy McCrogan. It's like it
yeah.
becomes one thing
And it's
as well.
interesting that some people actually like started calling me just Krogan at one point.
Ah,
So
oh wow,
yeah,
yeah. Um, just before
and
we get into
that's
Halo,
actually
yeah,
that's actually really cool as well. Just Krogan, it's kind
that
of
is.
cool.
If
Mm.
I was gonna be called something like as like a nickname, Krogan is definitely something which would be good. Like, I know Oh, that's Krogan coming down. Oh, I don't want to play. I don't want to fight against
Mhm.
Krogan in a matchmaking game. You know, that's awesome. Yeah. I do right. So I've done this with Shiesty
Mhm.
last time out, as well as T-Bang before that. I do a little quick fire round just before we go into Halo Infinite and have a chat about your sort of ladder
Yeah, yeah,
stages of your competing. I'm just going to name how much I got here. I think I've got eight, nine different things. I just want your first thing to come to your mind
yeah.
when I say these things. It can be whatever. It might be one word or I might ask you a question. So number one is Crossman.
The best Finnish objective player, the best Finnish teammate I've ever had.
Oh, we need to clip that. Just have that as one thing. Favorite sport.
Football.
Least favorite person to match in a matchmaking game.
Legends in Halo 5, definitely. Because he's
What?
too good.
Yeah. That would be.
He's
I
actually
ne-
one of the only like Halo 5 players that I ever struggled against in 1v1s. Like I was pretty well known for my like
mm,
individual skill, but he always gave me trouble like later Halo 5 when he got really good.
he was just incredible. Like literally, couldn't touch him. Luckily I never faced against him. That's because I wasn't at the level that you were to do match him in matchmaking.
Mm.
What's your pre-tournament ritual? Do you
Uh,
have one?
Doing some soft exercises, just like doing something physical. It kind of
Mm.
clears your head before a tournament
Oh, I'm taking
because
notes.
I've actually kind of noticed that it helps me when I just clear my head before a tournament, just reset, do something physical, like even if it's as simple as taking a walk through the
Mm.
town or something, just do something different than just like game all day and then hop on a tournament. Like do something physical. I
Get a
just felt
reset.
like my head worked so much better after that.
Oh, that's a great answer. That is. That's really, yeah. I think a lot of people should take notes on that
Yeah,
for it.
definitely.
Um, Favorite Halo map of all time. I'm
Oh,
asking
that's
the
a tough
deep
one.
questions.
For
Put you
me,
on the spot.
regret. Halo 5 regret.
Halo 5 regret. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm
Okay.
actually one of the few people who put it like that high. Most people say Coliseum, Plaza, those maps. I know those are like my second and third pretty much, but Regret I
Yeah.
always liked. Like my playstyle just fitted so well on Regret. Like that's the map where I played the best in 2v2s. That's the map where I played the best Slayer games. Like I was just a menace on Regret basically. Just my
Oh,
map
that's
basically.
awesome. There you go. You thrown me off there because I didn't expect that answer. But yeah, I can see that. Right, next one. Who's the best person to coach? Or who you have
Uh,
coached?
I've only coached basically one team, like in a more serious note. So that's just basically 4 players. But maybe
Yeah.
maybe I'd say Marvis from Frostbite.
Okay.
He and I we kind of had a good talk before the Valencia LAN event. So I was obviously going to cast the Frostbite players on the Valencia LAN. So that was Crossman, Zauk, Systematic, and Marvis. So me and Marvis had a good long chat before the tournament. We just went over some of his gameplay, and I pointed out some things. And we
Mm,
even watched like some of my tournament stuff when he asked about it, and just had a good time. And I felt like he took those things into heart, what I said, even if I didn't say many things because I was just doing light coaching. But he
yeah.
kind of took it to heart, and I think he was the most coachable. But obviously, they all were no complaints on either
Yeah.
side. But Marvis, he felt just a bit better in that regard.
Awesome. We'll talk about that a bit more as well when we get into Halo Infinite stuff. Um, Asari, Turian, or Solarian?
Sorry.
Ooh, okay. What What is your favorite takeaway to order if you order
Uh,
takeaway?
Has to be pizza, I think.
Yeah.
Nothing beats
Toppings.
a good pizza. Just a lot of meat, obviously something else as well, not just meat, but mostly
Yeah.
meat toppings. Just make it so good.
Last one. Your favorite Mass Effect 3 multiplayer character to play?
The Get Juggernaut.
What a
I can
tank.
Yeah, I don't even know why that popped up to my mind so quickly, but that's just the one I played most. Like that's just so fun, just tanking everything and just dealing tons of damage.
Do you remember the melee where he's like holding it up
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this?
yeah. He
Yeah.
holds it up and like holds the enemies on it, and just everybody else can shoot the enemy
Yeah.
while he's stuck there. So this is a tank
Yeah.
role. I really
Couldn't
enjoyed playing the
Can't
Juggernaut.
get insta killed as well. Can't get insta killed by things.
Yeah,
So you
yeah. Like
can
you
just
could
sort
take a lot of
yeah,
punishment with that character.
yeah. I was the Vorcha Sentinel
Oh,
for the
that's a spicy
Bloodlust.
one.
Yeah,
Spicy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Risk reward for sure,
Hmm.
definitely. That's the end of our quickfire round. That's some quite interesting ones. Regret.
Hmm.
Well, yeah. Big shout out to Marvies. Yeah, no, I always love doing that. I think that's one of my favorite parts about the podcast. Is just because it just gets a bit of insight about out external stuff from Halo and everything as well. Um, right, we're gonna move on to Halo Infinite, our last sort of this last
Hmm.
year span. Um, if I'm right in saying you started competing, and I think you alluded part to it with Furu at the start of Halo
Yeah.
Infinite. Talk me
Yeah.
through that sort of
True. Yeah.
first stage.
Yeah. So Turu, Crossman, myself, and Stiga was the original team. We tried to find several different squad combinations before Infinite, but kind of they always fell apart, and then we ended up with Stiga and Turu obviously maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks before the game came out, or I mean the beta, which was
Mm.
surprise dropped, like nobody knew that was coming. Anyway, so we begin with Turu, Stiga, Crossman, myself. We had quite an unfortunate week one in the first HCS rally qualifier. We lost 2 close games to Lani's team back then, obviously eliminated.
Mm.
And then we had some, especially on my part, maybe a little bit too much frustration, because at the start of Infinite, I was trying to take it as seriously as I could.
Yeah.
So when we lost that way, and maybe Stika was really young, and he still is. He was a teenager, so maybe he always wasn't on time to play for scrims. And Turu actually, he had some family issues, not like anything health or anything like that, but just his
Mm.
family members needed more attention, so he couldn't scream as much. So we kind of ended up departing with Stika and Turu after week one. Then we picked up Mose. We played with several different forward players. We had Hollers for a while. We played some scrims with Hollers. And then suddenly, a day before second week, the second Rare Lake qualifier, Speed was dropped from his team. So it was Musta, Speed, Outcast, and Shabidecker, I believe, at that point.
Mm.
So Speed was dropped. I actually believe that the reason he was dropped was mostly down to getting more points. So they brought a new
Oh,
forward player
really?
that had more points in hopes to qualify for Raleigh, because that was
Mm.
their main goal. Everybody wanted to qualify for Raleigh. So I think even Speed said that obviously it sucks to get dropped, but he kind of understood the reason in
Yeah.
a way. But yeah, so it's me, Speed, Crossman, and Mo. So it's actually a reunion of 3 of the
Yeah.
Krogan vaccine players from Halo 5. So we instantly clicked, and Mose was obviously a great player. Even at the start
Mm.
of Halo Infinite, when he was kind of left out of the top teams in a weird
Yeah.
way, he was still a really good player. So I believe we didn't get a single scrim with Speed, because we picked him up the night before the tournament. So we would go into the tournament with 0 practice with Speed.
Mm.
And we make it to, I believe, yeah, top 12. Then we play Mockit for top 8. We beat them 2-0. Yeah, I think so. So it was still Batchford, Squashy, Looney, and Warlord, that Mockit
Mm.
roster. And then for our top 6 match, we would play Speed's old teammates. So, again, Mista, Outcast, Shabidecker, and now it was simply Gambit, I believe.
Right.
So we played them for top 6. And the Speed had an extra motivation to beat them, because that's the team that dropped them. So we end
Yeah.
up winning game 1. I think it was a CTF Aquarius. We won it 4-2, if I'm not mistaken. So not exactly close. We lose the Slayer on Bazaar by 2 kills. I feel like I kind of made a bad play at the end. We could have maybe won the Slayer, maybe, just maybe,
Mm.
if I didn't make that play, but it is what it is. Game 3. Actually, sorry, I flipped it. Aquarius CTF wasn't game 1, it was game 3. So game 1 was Strongholds on Streets. Sorry, yeah. So we won the Strongholds on
Mm.
Streets 250 to 150. So not too close, yeah. So that's game 1. We lose the Slayer, and then we play Aquarius CTF, and we win that 4-2. And Speed just went off, basically. He just made the craziest flanks I've ever seen on the game, and just he was such a thorn in the enemy's flesh. He just made their life really, really awful on that map, that match. So yeah, we win the CTF, and obviously everybody explodes because those are the guys who dropped speed. So
Yeah.
it's just a really great moment. And there was a funny tweet that Speed made after the match, like "Never drop me again." It's the classic one.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah. But even though like that was a great result, we got top 6 in the second rally qualifier. We had still no chance to qualify
Yeah.
actually for rally. So at that point, and even before that, I already knew that I didn't like Infinite. Like even after week 1, I was almost done. Like I almost called quits after week 1. But then Moose kind of came around, and I thought like I really want to try it out with him because he's a great player. So we
Yeah.
played week 2, we got top 6, but I knew that if something happens to the team, then I'm probably gonna stop playing as well. So Speed actually got an offer to play with Lani with a potential organization that would like fly them out to Raleigh out of their own
Mm,
pockets. So Speed asked like me and Crossman and Mo's like, is it okay if he does that? And we obviously said like everybody wants to go to Raleigh. Like if we play together, we can't qualify. Like you should just join up with him and see if you can get to Raleigh. This is all in good spirit because we're
yeah, of
actually really
course.
good friends with Speed throughout the Halo 5 stuff, you know. So he leaves, and then I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then Crossman also, he asked me like if he can play with the Swedes, because the Swedes at that point had a really good chance to qualify for Rally as well. They had gotten 2 top 6s. So if they qualify top 6 or top 4 one more time, like they qualify for Rally. So obviously I say to Crossman again, who's a really good friend of mine, like, hell yeah, dude, just go play with the Swedes, try to qualify.
Yeah.
And I wait a few more days, obviously the Speeds organization falls through, I think. They didn't actually want to send them over anymore or something happened. The Swedes didn't qualify. They placed like top 12 or something. And just at that point I was like, there were no more online tournaments for a while. I think for like maybe 2 to 3 weeks. And at that point I was like, do I want to spend 2 to 3 weeks playing a game that I don't
Mm,
enjoy, doing that to myself, or do I just want to like stop it right there and then, just be happy with the top 6 and do other things in my life which I enjoy. So that was an easy
yeah.
decision on my part. That was just right there and then I just said like, that's it. I'm gonna stop it because I don't enjoy playing the game. So why would I compete? Why would I force myself to do it?
Yeah.
That's about
And
it basically for Infinite.
yeah. Well, there's one more thing which we touched upon during the quickfire questions, which I'd like to finish the podcast. We are nearly out of time here. You did actually go to your first LAN during Halo Infinite
Hmm.
as well, coaching Frostbite
Yeah, yeah.
esports. What was that like?
So obviously me and Crossman kept in touch. We even played some matchmaking even though I wasn't competing anymore. And Crossman played in different rosters. He played with the Swedes, he played with some other people in the spring of 2022. Eventually, he ended up with the Finnish squad because the core Finnish team of Zaog, Systematic, and Marvis, they were looking out for a fourth player. So Crossman was a good fit for that, and he joined up. And eventually, we just spoke about it, and I just mentioned like, if you guys need a coach for the LAN event, I'll coach because even though I wasn't playing anymore and I had never played in LAN, I still like wanted to go to a Halo LAN event and experience it in any way or form I can. So I was gonna go there anyway to spectate. So if I can just coach the Frostbite lads, then that's even better. So I hit them up and they said, yeah, definitely, man, just come on board and we'll go to Valencia together.
What was the LAN experience like then? Because obviously you've had at this point now three years competing in Halo, no longer competing but going to your first sort of LAN. Was it what you expected? It was anything which was like didn't expect anything like that?
It was mostly what I expected. I mean, really good, like a good venue, like good stations mostly. Obviously some technical issues, but every LAN has those. And we had some really good admins on the spot to help us out. Uh, there was the guy from Greater Toronto Halo, the lead guy, Martin Ohms, I believe. He's one of the like the best tournament organizers. Definitely, like he did a lot of work
Awesome.
behind the scenes to make everything work at Valencia. And then we had admins like our own European guy Xavier was there as an admin, and other guys as well, like Alex was there.
Yeah. Remember
So
Halo Alex?
those guys just they did everything to help us out, and all of the technical issues and whatnot, they were resolved pretty easily. So with
Awesome.
Frostbite, Friday open bracket, we win all of our matches quite easily. That was probably expected of us. Saturday we got on to play 2 games on main stage actually. So we lost against Jailings, obviously, kind of expected. And then we beat the Baxter team. That was Baxter, Desire, Deadeye, and Luckless Gov. So Frostbite, obviously, the Frostbite lads had lost to them in online competitions before. But when you get on LAN and you take the 60 millisecond ping training weights off, then it's a whole different setup. I'm still not quite sure how so many people were surprised that Frostbite won that series, because it's literally 60 milliseconds of ping taken off of their weight. So it's a whole different environment. But yeah, I mean, the teamwork was on point. Everybody's individual skill, the play calls, the shots, everything was on point. I didn't have to do much at all, honestly. Like in the Jailing series, I noticed it getting like too hectic at points, and maybe even at one point I was the reason for it getting a bit too hectic because I got so hyped. But just timing the power-ups, the power weapons, equipment, and then maybe sometimes calming the guys down a little bit when it got hectic, and just keeping the vibes up. Always making them like fist bump and stuff before and after the games, and just making up jokes to crack a smile or crack a laugh. So just those little things, but they won that series quite easily. It was a blast to win that top 12 match on main stage. So Frostbite landed top 12, then we lost to Batchford, Disarray, Riots, and a 4th player. Which by the way beat Blackhand, so they were no joke. In that tournament they beat Blackhand.
And that's a great placement for the Finnish lads as well.
Yeah, everybody was happy with it. So everybody knew that there was a chance for us to get top 8, but we were still happy with the top 12. And besides the tournament, like, we went out in the evenings to eat outside and go to bars and stuff. So we had a great time overall.
Yeah, tournament organizer, competitor, caster, coach. You fulfilled it all, basically, Tommi. In such a short span of time. I mean, even had your own social community in Finnish players.
Yeah, definitely.
As well. We're about all we've got time for right now, Tommi. Before we close it all off, is any other questions or anything that you've got left to say?
Yeah, I had a quick question for you, actually. So basically, I was wondering, because you've casted for Europa Halo for a long time and you've done a lot of interviews. You must be like somewhere between 50 to 100 like casts/interviews at this point. Like, has to be. There's so many.
Potentially.
So maybe some people know the answer to this, and maybe someone has asked it before. But how did you get involved with Europa Halo at the first? Like, how did you get there? How did it all start?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll give you a relatively short answer because I'm worried about time. I competed in Halo back in Halo Reach, was my first Halo I competed in. I was online. I didn't go to any LANs. I was a 1v1 player, actually, like on the Game Battles ladder is where I first got into it. That was about 2011, I think, was that time. So I knew about Halo esports, but I didn't have that drive, especially when Halo Reach sort of like got taken off MLG. And Halo 4 was around the corner. There wasn't really much like passion for me to continue into competing. So I came back to compete. So I dropped it then, and I came back to compete in 2016 Halo 5 after having that long time away. I competed. I went to multiple LANs. I did coach as well, but I never had time because almost similar to yourself in Halo 5 when I first started competing, I was a bit older.
Yeah.
I'd gone from Halo to Gears of War, competed a lot when I was younger in those 2 games, and then when I came back to Halo 5, I was older. I didn't want to take it seriously, and I didn't have the time to commit to it as seriously as well. So when I sort of went to a couple of LANs that I performed at the level I thought was really good, and I played with Splicey Memes, my first ever Halo LAN, which was myself, Depleted, IREC, and Curly Sniper. Which probably aren't names which people know these days, but it was almost like it was a meme roster. But we ended up getting on main stage and competing, competed against a Radiant esports team, which it was was a weird one on main stage because we were just so like inexperienced in terms of like how to handle that pressure.
Mm.
We beat Radiant in a warm up game
Oh.
on CTF Truth 2-1, and we were like, oh, we're going to win this series. And we came into real game, and they capped with like 25 seconds left in that game one to win 2-1 against us, and we sort of like dropped our heads mad. We didn't have that sort of like mentality at the time to sort of like rebound from it. So the next two games weren't close. But anyway, I competed in a couple of other lands, and I coached a Polaris team of Shabby Dagger, Druck, Hollis, and Slumpy as well. But I remember at the time in Europa Halo was quite young. This was 2018. I've been with Europa Halo for 4 years. They had Kalen and Monster Bang with the two commentators, two casters, and there's a Halo 3 tournament which Monster Bang couldn't run, couldn't be in. So Europa Halo sort of basically posted a tweet out saying, "Is any people in the scene want to get involved?" And some people tagged me in it, and I was like, "Oh, yeah." And the rest is just sort of history. It's a Halo 3 tournament where in Halo 3 and MCC at the time you didn't have spectate mode as well, so we watched it from streams of the players. And I remember in the final, I think we watched it from Sniple's POV. And as soon as I just sort of got into commentating with Kalen, and obviously I was still fresh in the competitive scene, so I knew a lot about the game. I just sort of went from there almost. So 4 years now commentating. I spent more time casting than I have done competing or coaching in the scene as well. So it just sort of just went from there. Like that tournament went well. I really enjoyed it, and then Kalen asked me if I wanted to do another one, and because I wasn't competing at the time, or I was coaching but I wasn't competing, I thought, well, why not? I still want to be in the scene. I can't commit the time to playing as a player, so casting seemed to be sort of the route I wanted to go into. And for those who don't know, outside of casting, I do a lot of dramatical performances, so I perform on stage quite a bit. So it just sort of like fitted into what I did anyway.
Awesome.
That's an awesome question, man. Like,
and you still have the passion like 4 years later, which is even more awesome. So
I love it.
Keep doing.
Love it. Cheers, Tommy. Thanks so much, man. It's been an absolute pleasure, Tommy, by the way, to have you on. It's almost rekindled since when we last commentated together in the TV2s. Always brilliant speaking to you, man. Where can people find you, like on the socials, if they wanted to check you out?
Basically just Twitter. I don't even use any other social media, or I don't stream anything like that. So just Twitter at Tommi_T Krogan, basically.
Yeah, absolute pleasure, man. That's all we've got time for, guys. Thank you very much for everybody listening or watching on the YouTube, Spotify's, or wherever you find this podcast. Tommy, brilliant as always, man. Thank you so much for being on board. And for all you guys listening at home as well, take care. Have a good one.
Thank
see you next
Joe.
time.
Bye.
Yeah. See you guys.